the issue that's happening right now, not just in Australia, not just in New Zealand, not just in Canada, throughout the West, is there's this horrible collectivist, historical, moral condemnation, which is as vile a philosophical and moral sin as anything I can imagine. Where, as Europeans, as whites, we are told to feel guilty for things that other white people did hundreds of years ago, a lot of which is not even proven. We are told to feel guilty for all of the bad things that happened, but we're not supposed to feel any positive emotions for all of the great things that happened. Nothing but shame. Nothing but self-derision, nothing but self-contempt, nothing but self-hatred. Isn't that the invitation that is constantly played out to us? You did terrible things, your ancestors did terrible things, feel guilty, give money. We've turned into these giant collectivist, blood-stained vending machines of white guilt. Boom, 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 money, money, money. It's a shakedown. It's wrong. It's immoral. It's vile. It's predatory. And the most shameful thing that we have done is submit to shame, without a doubt.
In Poland, the values are patriotic, which means the values are for freedom, for trade, for independence, for integrity, for virtue. And I think that comes a lot out of the Christian ideals of Poland. In Christianity, if an act is compelled, it cannot be virtuous. Now, the contradiction between this and the welfare state is something I have chatted about with people and received some robust pushback, but I think it's a fairly decent case. So, in Poland, if something is compelled, it cannot be virtuous. And therefore, freedom is essential for virtue. In Germany, subjugation to the state was the virtue, and therefore whatever the state made you do represented the freedom of the race or the nation or the class, and therefore the freedom of the individual was not only not required, but was in opposition to the freedom of the state. And so here in Poland, people wish to be virtuous, and because they are Christian and patriotic, they require freedom in order to achieve that virtue. I think that most Poles would feel that you do not own a virtue that is compelled any more than you own a treasure that is stolen, that you must earn it, and to earn it you must be free, you must have a choice. If you don't have a choice, you cannot have virtue. So, what do they want? They want freedom. And there is, very deep in the Polish character, as I've seen, an extraordinarily deep skepticism of authority. And that is a very powerful thing. And this, of course, goes back to the Catholic residing of the individual consciousness between the ears of each of us. This skepticism of authority is wonderful because I don't really consider myself an authority. I'm fairly knowledgeable and a decent debater on some topics. But when I put forward an argument, I can see this narrow-eyed skepticism meeting my syllables, which is wonderful. The sword is sharpened on the whetstone, not in water or air. So that process of curiosity has been wonderful. And what I got quite emotional about during the march was that I have seen so many negative aspects of collectivism that it became a devil with no redeeming characteristics or features for me. It was a cloud with no silver lining. It was a night without a dawn, a rain without an end. And almost like trying to sand or jam a square peg into a round hole, I have to face the fairly beautiful collectivism of the Poles and try and figure it into my mindset of collectivism is bad. Even my definition of collectivism has been found wanting. But I am an empiricist, and I also respect emotion. And if my emotions react positively to the beauty and strength of Polish collectivism, I can't just dismiss that. I can't just say, well, that's just a silly throwback to medieval tribalism and it must be expunged from my character like data on a Hillary Clinton email server. I can't do that. I have to work empirically with the emotional information that I am receiving when I am walking through a graveyard full of Polish patriots with tears streaming down my face, when I am frustrated by my inability to join in the general song of the Polish people during a 200,000 strong independence march. That is a very important set of information for me to process. This is a very important detail, more than a detail. It is a depth of feeling that I have only associated with love of friends and family, love of virtue, and love of wisdom. I can't just will it away, I can't wish it away, I can't. And therefore I feel very strongly that a great treasure has been withheld from me. A great treasure has been turned into a curse for me. And that the collectivism that is beneficial has been driven out by a great thirst to implant in me a collectivism. This just struck me. If you drive out the benevolent collectivism, you atomize people. You alienate them from their tribe, their peers, their benevolent gang. I have, for the most part, over the course of my career as a public intellectual, worked alone. Because you see, collectivism was just terrible. Collectivism was awful. And therefore those who have organized themselves along collectivist lines have a great advantage over me. Because I lack a tribe, I lack a community, I lack a group. Even now, being out of the studio is a solitary occupation. It's me and a camera. Being out here with these wonderful people who are organizing and filming and recording what it is that I'm doing is a very different experience. So the collectivism curse that I was provided was without break. It reigned supreme in my heart and mind until yesterday and the day before. It's very, very strange. It's very like gravity is reversing itself. Up is down, black is white, dogs living with cats. I don't know which way is forward anymore. But I'll tell you this straight up. I don't want to do it alone anymore. I don't know what that means, but I don't want to do it alone anymore. There is something almost selfish in the level of individualism where you reject the benevolent help of like-minded people. And I have fought with groups in my life. I have fought with the libertarians, I have fought with the communists, I have fought with the anarchists, I have fought with the conservatives, I have fought with the Christians. I'm not saying it was all bad. I hope it wasn't all bad. I wonder if I am also not just a Puritan at heart. Perhaps this comes from deep back in my Protestant heritage. A Puritan at heart. You know, the narcissism of petty differences can give you a mode of isolation that is almost impossible for anyone to cross, because you must be perfect and perfectly aligned with what I call reason and evidence at the time in order to gain access to my allegiance. And there is a vanity in that as well. I'm just going through the list of sins that I may have committed. There is vanity in that as well, because it assumes perfection on the part of me and therefore imperfection on the part of those who disagree. I'm certainly not perfect, and I certainly have changed my mind over the years, and I wonder the degree to which I might not have rejected other people's ability to do the same. There is strength in numbers. There is strength in community. There is power in the tribe. The enemy we face is great and powerful and organized and well-financed and enormous in number. Maybe they tricked me into fighting alone so that I and everyone would just lose.